Welcome to the Founded Leader podcast, where we unpack what scaling a company does to people, relationships, and leadership. I'm Yohanna, I'm your host and program manager for the leadership development program with the same name, Founded Leader. And in each episode, I'm joined by 3 guests with different perspectives to help me unpack a real dilemma. So let's get started. So our dilemma for today is from the employee side of the founder and employee relationship. So if you are a founder listening, this is a rather rare chance to listen to an honest reflection on how your behaviors and actions might look like from where your team and employee sits. And to help me unpack this dilemma, I have startup employee Moritz Hartmann, founder Nicolai Arnholm-Nyström, and leadership coach Nina Uller with me in the studio. So Moritz, you are the chief of staff at Ento, and you have spent more than 6 years now working closely to founders. You have experienced firsthand what it's like from the seat right next to them.
Yes, in different titles, different roles, I worked as the right hand to founders and CEOs. And I don't know all better, but I have a lot of perspectives and experience working with them and hopefully can share these perspectives today.
I am sure you can. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And Nicolai, very happy to have another Swedish surname with me in the studio for once. But you are the co-founder and CEO at frankly Insure, and you have built and led that team for 5 years now. And at the time of this recording, you're currently 14 employees.
Yes, exactly. So we are trying to build the next digital insurer here in the Nordics, and really excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And Nina, you are a leadership coach at Founded Leader, and you have more than 30 years of leadership experience now across tech, entrepreneurship, and the military. So thank you for being back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So let's get straight to business. So our dilemma today is about what to do when your founder's moods negatively affect the team and culture. So Hendrik, and just a quick disclaimer here that is not his real name, he writes, "My founder's emotional state shapes our company's entire culture. Every decision feels so personal to him, and sometimes it's a great advantage because his deep passion inspires people. But it's also exhausting because he can be so temperamental that we all start to dread what mood he'll be in. I know our fundraising is pressuring him, but his arguments are often very emotional and irrational, and his moods and insecurities affect everyone around him. I've even had to mediate some of his outbursts. He is the smartest person I've met. I learn so much from him, and I get that this is his baby, but it's difficult working in a company where one person's emotional state is the culture. I see so many inspiring things in him as a leader. So is this just the reality of a startup with big ambitions? And if it isn't, what can I actually do as an employee?" So Moritz, there's a lot of things going on in this dilemma, but what was your first reaction when you read it?
I'm sorry. I hear you. This is a very difficult situation to be in.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree that there's a weird thing of making passion the same thing as being emotionally unstable and unpredictable, and that's a liability. And it often sold as being an edge as a founder to be very passionate, but you have to be passionate but also very self-aware. That should be the case. And for the employer, it's really finding the right people to talk with the founder about it. That not always the most senior person in the room. It can be the person who has the least to lose. For example, in my past, when I was an early stage startup, just started working, I felt like I had nothing to lose. So I was somebody who spoke up a lot because it was easier for me. But it's super hard being that early stage as an employee because you don't have great programs like Founders to Leaders where you learn how to resolve conflicts, how to give good feedback. It was often become just a back and forth discussion or fight where like I had not the tools to actually bring over my point and solve it. So usually it's always good to have several people there to moderate, not alone, and actually call it out. But it's very hard to fix. I think a founder that early is the culture. And if that doesn't change, it is a real problem. And I think if it really escalates, I hope that there are infrastructure in place like anonymous feedback channel or also connections to the board through some trusted person to call it out, not only for the company and employer's sake, but also for the founder's sake, because it sounds like there's also potential mental health issues. But these things are very hard to actually do. and to establish. And I can only recommend doing them in the good times and establish these channels and things because they send signals that people think, okay, something is going wrong. So a lot of preventive work should be done, especially in the good times, so these things never happen. But yeah, it's very hard to actually fix that. And I would have liked to have better tools back then to also have these kind of conversations sometimes in a better way.
It's also something that really resonates with me. I think I realized later that it's actually something that you should maintain, just like you maintain a healthy runway and all these different things, because it's like, especially when you're in a founder's position, you can easily, first of all, the culture is built around who you are and who the other co-founders are, and you find employees and team that fits into that culture. But it spreads like wildfire in a small team if you come in and you radiate a negative attitude or that you have these outbursts or other things. And also something I reflected on is you mentioned this passion maybe becomes like an excuse to behave in a bad way. And I think there's this interesting thing about survivorship bias on like the brilliant but the temperamental founder, and this host culture around it, whether it's like Elon Musk, who is infamously difficult to work for, or Steve Jobs, and you sit there as a young startup founder and look up to them, and it's like, okay, that's the way I need to do it. I just need to be passionate and really, and then it doesn't matter how I treat other people, or if I go in and be a complete idiot around it. But it's like it's so important to understand that these are outliers, and you never hear about the temperamental founders which companies died, and there's probably a lot more than the brilliant temperamental founders that succeeded. So I think that's an interesting perspective on it. And last thought I had around it is also, I think it's important to have an outlet where you can come out with this, and don't use your team or employees to do it. And I think that's some of the things that I used to, prioritize the least, actually doing maybe good things for myself to, stress down or take a break. Because if you don't do that, then you go into the office and then you just get your outburst there, and I think that's very short-term thinking, and that's not the right way to do it. So try also to actually prioritize that and facilitate that for yourself, so you don't you don't skip the cost. You just defer it to your team instead, and that can be incredibly frustrating.
And Nina, what do you see in your coaching room? Are founders normally aware how much their mood affect the culture?
No, to say, and that's exactly what we are working with in Founder to Leader, is that actually their state of mind is more stronger than their words, and their voice is very loud because it's the owner, it's the boss who's speaking here, meaning that you can say something like a joke, or it's like, yeah, I'm unhappy today, and you can be a little rough maybe, but it means so much more when it's you who actually is paying them to have a living. So there's a lot of power that we are not necessarily aware of stepping into the role of a founder. And I think here I also read that this employee, Henrik, he's kind of stuck between the admiration for this brilliant founder and then having this imbalance in who can say what and who should breathe what kind of air. And I also noticed that Henrik says, I get it, it's his baby. And that to me is indicating that it's something that everybody's accepting. And then it's becoming, how do we handle him today? And then they go to work to manage their founder, not to do their job. So they manage their founder first, and then they can do their tasks, kind of. And this mediation, of course, that this should never be an employee's job. However, when it seems like that's the best, it's very important to know what is actually your responsibility. And as you say also, what is what can be expected? What can you actually change? So I think in this case for Henrik, and I think this goes for most dilemmas, it's about staying as cool as possible and not to join into this wind and to flow and be, it's like keeping yourself at distance and say, what has actually changed? And like think in slow motion, breathe deeply, take a break, say, yeah, I'll be back shortly, and then go out rather than jump into the same emotion. And there you can find good answers or better answers.
But I also wonder there, Moritz, if it was because you said before that you were quite junior at the time, so you didn't have a lot to lose. But I would also imagine that it comes back to who you are as a person, right? If you feel confident speaking up to what actually is authority or not. And I'm also super curious there because it sounds like you've had somewhat of a similar situation. So what were your thoughts there in terms of, do I leave? Do I push back? Do I just accept? What were some reflections you had at the time?
Yeah, I was early in I think these things happen in all startups, and I think there's always something as long as it goes well. A lot of these disadvantages or weaknesses or passion in this case are ignored because it's going well. And I think we often have it in startups. The culture is maybe not set up, but as long as success can take over a lot and can fix weak culture or bad founder emotions a lot. And I think that was something that back then just kept me going because it went well until it didn't. And then, of course, these kind of things escalate even more. And I feel like I didn't take it well or did fix it well or it was done well back then, but it's unfortunately very normal. And I also, until this day, I have a hard time figuring out what is actually the best way to solve it. I think it seems like a founder. And I think one of the good things having co-founders and having a diverse team of co-founders who can kind of balance that out is already a very preventive step. And I think also recommended by most companies. And I think, to be honest, there's also, if we talk startups and we see, there's the investors who often push for edgy founders, visionary founders, but then also should have the support through board governance or through great programs like here to actually teach and help their founders so it doesn't happen. Yeah,
I agree, and I mean, it's just to your point of saying that it's usually the brilliant product or the innovative that are running these startups. So, and that's also why the Founder to Leader program was such a brilliant insight, is that most of them aren't really good leaders, and maybe in situations where you should have treated this, okay, I'm in an enterprise and I need to handle this professional, everything becomes very emotional because you have so much skin in the game and you started this, and then you feel everything as a personal attack to you, and it's not necessarily the best way to go about things. But I think when I read this and I hear this, it's or when I hear this, there's also maybe some assumptions in it. So I agree on that you should pick this up in the good times, because picking the fight in the bad times might not be the best way to approach it. I 100% agree with that, Moritz. But maybe also be curious about what's happening underneath the surface, because in my own experience, I think there's also times when I come in and I'm like, I look tired. I have big bags under my eyes, and people think, oh, you must be super stressed about the fundraising or the commercial sale that we have. But it might also just be that I have 2 small kids at home and I haven't slept this night. So there's also a lot of assumptions in this, and be curious about maybe take it a bit more, because I tend to say that all business problem is just people problems in disguise. So maybe try to be like, okay, let me be curious about what's happening here, and take that emotional head on and be like, what is actually troubling you? Because it also quickly takes the guards down and like de-escalate, because it's so easy to just jump on the train that if you're stressed out or if you have an argument, to just go that, because it spreads, and I'm easy to go on that train as well. I'm really affected about what the mood is and what's happening around me. So that's also why I'm aware of how, if I'm that, then I assume that other people are probably the same, and specifically the team around me as well.
Yeah, and I think that's again coming back to what we are doing in Founder to Leader is to kind of understand what's going on within people and in between people, and understand that there might be a reason, and it's not me, So I'm actually not the target of this mood or whatever it is, and then have this strategy for how to create distance and understand and stay in a way that you can think clearly.
I have a question for you there, Nicolai, because now you said, be curious about what's going on underneath the surface, and maybe sometimes you come in and you're a bit moody, maybe not to the degree that you have outbursts, of
Yeah.
course. But in those situations, what would you actually like from your employees there?
I think what I want for them is basically just to speak up their mind, and I think a lot of it is also, and that goes for all relationships, try to snap out of it, maybe get a different perspective on it, and like, okay, this might not be as bad as you think. I think I would, if it would come to me and be like, what's actually happening here, and then I might be just super stressed out, and I just need to focus on solving this, and then they won't understand that. But then it also becomes my responsibility to open up and be vulnerable, and be like, this is stressing me out, or I'm just having a shitty day, and it is how it is. But I think it all comes down to like creating the clarity around it. I think we can quickly create a lot of hypotheses about why is he reacting this way or that way. But try to create some clarity around that. Remove the fog around it. I think that's important, and it's something I'm conscious about in my role and the work that I do.
And I'm also curious there to hear your perspective, Moritz, because Henrik writes here that I know our fundraising is pressuring him. And you worked in startups and helped with fundraising. And so do you see a difference normally in the founders that you worked with when you are in an intense fundraising period or not?
Yeah, 100%. It's a type thing. Now I think our founding team of 3 people, so it's also much easier to delegate work, saying now it's fundraising time, you have to do more commercial, more product, and just being the type of person who's approaching it much more structural. That, of course, it makes it easier. But in the past, it just is so tense, and I think I also have to acknowledge the problems of founders, because how transparent can you be to a team? I think there's a healthy level of panic or tensity you can share. Like, we have 3 months runway left. Fundraising is not going well. You cannot share that all the time like this. But sometimes you have to tell a team, hey, we have to do or die now. This month is really important because we have to close that round. And keeping the right balance of sharing this kind of transparent without oversharing and creating a lot of panic and drama is super hard. And I have to acknowledge it's super hard to find that right balance as a founder. Because the more I got to founders and was part of these experiences, I have to say it is hard.
And that balance I really struggle with, and it's top of mind for me so many times, is like, what should we share? Because again, the whole context around it also helps people move in the right direction. Whether it's in a situation where we need to fundraise and we need some really good numbers, okay, then maybe I should focus on the short-term commercial activities to help the guys fundraising. So I think that balance is really tricky to strike. And we've been in a situation where we didn't share at all, and no one really understood what's going on, and where we overshared, where they just went home and be like, okay, we have 2 months of runway left. What I'm gonna search for another job. What is going on? So I think that's that's super tricky.
And I think it's a super important part of being the founder is to contain all that anxiety.
Yeah.
In as you say, in a regulated way.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for balance anywhere. It's like something you all the time have to regulate.
Yeah.
As you say, you will try this, you will try that, and then find how can I regulate, how are they reacting to this,
Yeah.
and what can I share. So it's this containment, and this is what I hear here is that it's not contained by the founder, it's contained by the employees,
Yeah.
and that's not their job. It really isn't, and that's why founders are paid better than employees, because they should not have personal risks in this, meaning their heart is beating and they're getting stressed, that kind of risks.
and there is also just periods. Go back to what you talked about before, Moritz. It's like we've been fundraising quite a lot, so we know how it is, and we think it's the absolute worst. It's really where I become the worst side of myself together with my co-founder. So we also just say to the teams like, guys, we're going to fundraise. My co-founder and I, we're going to fight a lot about it because it's Excel sheets and budgets, and we sit there and the stakes really becomes high, because it's also like, it becomes one of those things like either you succeed and you're fine, or you don't, or you're dead. So it like the stakes really becomes evident there. And there, back to the balance thing, I think it's also being transparent about, we're going to do this. We might not be the most fun to hang around. So you know why the mood is like it is, and then maybe take a bit steps back when it's not going so well, and not create a panic around the team or overshare. That's been something that we've been focusing on and doing lately.
But for Henrik here, look, because his last question is, what can I actually do as an employee? What can he actually do? Is it that he should stop mediating? Is it that he should learn some tool? Is it that he should leave? Just curious. It's an open question for whoever feels like grabbing it.
I hope it's temporary because of the fundraising, because it's a very common thing in that period, and then should ask also the founder if they can communicate it that way, saying, hey, it's temporary, we have to do that. And very concrete, as I said, go for direct feedback, not alone, find the right tools to share it, find other channels, and even if it really escalates, involve the board or anonymous channels. Like, there is a way when it really, really gets too far that you have to do something. It doesn't seem to be the case right here. But I also never figured it out, so it's hard to give a good advice.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's important to be clear about your position in this. Be very clear about it and direct. Maybe not in the heat of the moment, but then afterwards, and then it becomes the founder's responsibility to what do you take from that, and then the next step from there is like, some people are just difficult to work with. So also be clear with yourself. What can I accept and what can't I accept? So yeah, tricky situation, definitely.
Yeah, no easy answers, of course, and that was not what I was expecting when I asked that question.
No, and I think this is actually a system failure, meaning that it's tough to carry that as an employee. It's a leader not living up to being a leader, and this means there's something missing. And just understanding that actually you cannot mend something that is missing.
Got it. So if we are to summarize, and just restating here what Henrik's question was is this just the reality of startups with the big ambitions? And if it isn't, what can I actually do? So it's not necessarily the reality of a startup. So Henrik, there's a lot of founders out there who care about creating and maintaining a healthy culture, just like they want to create and have a healthy runway for their companies, and who are looking to improve themselves. So this is not the reality for all startups. And I have a very unified answer here that all four of us think that it is, of course, not your job to manage your founders' moods and emotional outbursts. It is your job to do your tasks. So I want to be very, very clear with that. But if it is that you still want to try and do some things I'm hearing is try to find like some preventable channels and do that when times are good. So that might be looking into, okay, can we establish a feedback culture, asking the founders directly, like, what is it that's going on underneath the surface? And if it gets really, really bad, look at involving more senior players. So that might be the board, investors, or some more senior people who actually have it as a job. And then also potentially, if you feel comfortable, and again, it's not your job, but if you want to do it, also tell the founder that it's not working because X, Y, Z, and state that, as an employee, I think that you should work on this, and then give that work back to the founder as well, but pinpointing it from where you are sitting. And for founders listening that heard this dilemma and went, "Ooh, I can maybe see myself a bit in this," what I'm hearing then is that a passion, it's not an excuse for emotionally unstableness or unpredictable moods. And if that is you, it actually means that you are a liability for your team. And it is your job to maintain a healthy culture and create that, just like it is having a healthy runway. And remember that you are the boss as the founder. So you have more power and authority than you might be aware of, regardless of if you want it or not. You have it because you are in that role. And it means that the things that you do and things that you say will land very heavy for the people that you're leading. So remember that. That's unfortunately everything that we have for today. It was not an easy dilemma at all, but I thank you so much to Moritz and Nicolai and Nina for coming here and bringing a lot of smart and good insights and perspectives. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Being here.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Founder Leader podcast. And remember to subscribe, review, and submit your own dilemma anonymously in the link in the description. Talk to you next time. Thank you. A quick note, this podcast is brought to you by Founder to Leader, Denmark's most established leadership development program for founders with personnel responsibility. The program combines organizational psychology with experiential learning and is delivered by Copenhagen Business School and the Danish Industry Foundation. It's free to participate, so read more and apply at foundertoleader.dk.